I want to welcome you all to this month's Cloud Leadership Circle Meetup. It's great to see you. Thanks again for joining us today. And I think, as you guys are all aware, there's so much noise about AI right now. And so I really want CLC, and specifically today, to just be a place where we can really focus on like the real conversations. Like, want to talk about like what's working, what's coming next, and really how we can make sense of it all. And so today's session is pretty packed. We're going to start it off talking about the state of multimodal conversational AI. We're going to explore AI agents and then shift gears and talk about how you can show up as a thought leader on LinkedIn. So without further ado, I want to just jump right into it. And first up, we have our guest speaker, Terry Woodward. And Terry's going to talk to us about conversational AI and just how far it can go. So I want to turn it over to Terry to have the floor. So please take it away, Terry.
Yep, sounds good. We'll get the slides up here and we'll take off. Okay, there we go. Okay, so what I'm going to go over today is kind of where we came from, which is kind of interesting because I had the good fortune to be involved in conversational AI going back 11 years. And so there's been a long path to get to where we are today, and I'm very excited about where we are today because it was really challenging to do 11 years ago. So I'm going to take a look at that. And then we're going to look at what we kind of need for next steps to really go forward with this technology, and then a little bit of what the future looks like. Okay, so this is a lot of things have kind of come together to get us to where we're at, but we still have things to work on, like the guardrails and responsible development coming up, all these kinds of things as this AI technology really digs in to kind of start working for real for us.
Cloud Leadership Circle is brought to you by Dunyasi Ventures, a leading provider of expert recruitment services. Whether you are starting out or scaling up, Dunyasi Ventures recruitment solutions will give you access to expert recruiters who will find the right fit every time. Contact Dunyasi Ventures today for a free consultation to build your dream team.
So here's a slide I put together. This is going back 11 years. I did a lot of chatbot work very early on. This one was part of kind of complex outdoor gear e-commerce sales. And what I saw in working with those kind of early projects is a lot of what we see today. So people kind of got up to speed with it pretty quickly. They did kind of like, the virtual agent and, thank the agent, kind of, work with it like a friend. And it was effective. So what you see here, and I'm going to go on real quickly, but this is actually all generated by a chatbot. So chatbot kind of speaks a template into being. What's on the buttons, chatbot spoke. People interacted by, pushing a button which sends that text to the chatbot, or entering something like you see in this middle box here, choose which size of tent that you want. And, there's kind of multimodal aspect of this too. You can have YouTube video on one of these channels and things. So this actually was very effective in the beginning. Like, you thought in the very beginning it's text, but people didn't warm up to that as much as having, a little bit of this kind of multimodal thing. So, because LLMs are trained on human knowledge, there's actually some very interesting things that we can do with the chat that we don't even think about as much. So this is a fun one I did for our talk here. So since chat is trained on human knowledge, you can ask it very interesting kind of cross-domain questions, and it does a really good job of answering this. So I asked, what principles or techniques of alfalfa farming may relate to the intention of the Cloud Leadership Circle? And I gave a little bit of background on the Cloud Circle. And so it came up with, well, one thing you do in alfalfa farming is crop rotation. And so, there's this idea of needing to adapt to change and kind of plan for change. And it gave, nice written descriptions. They're just too long for the slides. Alfalfa fixes nitrogen in the soil. So there's kind of this idea of seeding ideas is like ecosystem enrichment, has deep root systems. So, foundational knowledge is important. And continuous harvesting and renewal, which is kind of what, Megan's doing here too, is getting thought processes going and renewing. So it's kind of fun. And I've done this, with quite a few different interesting things. So something to try, take an idea and then pick anything, and then ask it to compare and contrast the concepts. It's fun. Another thing, since the chat bots are trained, the LLMs are trained on human knowledge, is you actually can work with personas with the chat bot. And this is something I've done for marketing things. And it's a very interesting thing, because you can create a persona, and the chat bot's very accurate at representing persona, because it's got all the Reddit, all the, everything that's out there that could be used for training. It's got it. And so this one, I just want to point out, Microsoft created this tiny troop. So here's another thing that we can do now with conversational AI. And I know the speaker that follows me will probably talk about this kind of thing quite a bit more. But, Replic's given us this ability to use conversation and an AI agent to actually build applications. And this has, become very popular for, proof of concept building. And this thing's going to go a lot further too. This is quite interesting. IBM Watson has education chatbot, and the teacher can upload, like a drawing for the topic, and Watson can generate explanations, provide examples, and even prompt additional drawings to kind of make that topic relevant. So this, I think we're going to see a lot more of too, where chatbot becomes our tutor and can do a lot of good for us. This one was an interesting one. It's called Be My Eyes, and it leverages GPT-4's image recognition to assist visually impaired users. So it interprets and describes what the phone is seeing to the user. User can ask questions about it. That's very cool application and good use of the technology. So Dell and NVIDIA have already started doing the digital assistants, and I saw a video already of this where some enterprise company has a human resource first stage interview manager that is one of the talking heads and does the first round of an interview and records it before it goes on. And so these will be interesting, and we'll see a lot of use of these two. And of course, these are good partners there in NVIDIA, with all of its GPU capability and some of the interesting things they're doing. I'm going to show that in a second. These things are very lifelike, and even have kind of the natural movement. Digital companions is another thing. Starting to see a lot of this. Has been very popular in Japan also, and we're going to see a lot of this. Robotics just now queued up to start really coming on the scenes, and of course, talking to your robot is has all kinds of uses. So if we think about what do we need for next steps, where we're at with the LLMs is they can use their training data and respond well, and we all have played around with that, but they actually need mental models to kind of go further, and humans operate that way. We have different mental models that we use for prediction, and the way we see and operate in the world, and also the way we relate to each other. So often, if you've noticed in your workplace, once you've shared with a colleague enough to establish shared mental models, then things go really fast. And so that's the same thing we're going to need to see, with the agent is, that capability. Contextual understanding is another thing. What I found in programming and working with LLMs is that if you can keep the context present and keep refreshing the context, the LLM does so much better with its understanding of what you're trying to do than if you're just asking it a question and it's kind of going off on its own. Reasoning is coming into picture now. A number of the LLMs have the chain of thought, thing going on. And then memory, ChatGPT was the early one doing that, but having memory of your sessions, memory of things that are going on. So these are things that are all in process, but we're going to need deepening of those to really get where we're going next. So what does the future look like? This is an interesting one. NVIDIA's already come up with what they call digital twins, and part of this is for training robots, and other things like BMW is using it for auto design. And it's a concept where there's a digital twin that's created that has actual physics, actual, interaction in the real world that is the same as you would see in the factory. And so what NVIDIA is doing is setting that up so you can do your robot training in the virtual environment without having to run it in the physical environment until you're ready to run, like the, staging production tests and things in the actual world. So that's a very cool use of this. And of course, you can, tell the robot, go, pick up this container and drop it over there with the conversational AI, in this environment too that NVIDIA has. And you can, it changes the environment that way. So that's very cool. This is an interesting one. If you haven't come across this yet, Fei-Fei's group is creating what's called a large world model. So it's like a GPT that can generate, 3D worlds. And they also, it's very much like if you look at what a game engine does in the video games, where you have realistic physics, really realistic interactions with the virtual character. So that's coming. They're building their thing now. They had a huge funding round, and we're going to see that coming out soon too, where we get to speak and create the world, speak and interact with the world, and we're moving towards the Star Trek's holodeck kind of thing, very rapidly. And finally, we're going to see, I think, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and I think Chinese company all have recently released these, or come out with these quantum chips. Quantum chips are going to give us the massive compute to let us do realistic scenario and probability kind of calculations, and that will be tied in with the conversational AI too. So you might ask, based on where our sales were this last quarter, generate a whole bunch of scenarios, look at the the wider marketplace, economic conditions, and tell us what's going to happen. And so we're going to start to see that come together.